Come on in, sit back and relax. You're listening to Wealth Tech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting, and this podcast features interviews, news, and analysis on the trends and best practices all around wealth management technology. My guest for this episode was Bob Pisani, CTO of Addepar, and we spoke about Addepar's AI vision and their platform, Addison, their AI native AI experience, and agentic workflows and customizations. Now, here's a question every executive at wealth management firm should be able to answer right now. Do you know every AI tool running inside your firm today? Who approved it? What data it's touching? And what your liability is if it makes a bad recommendation? If you hesitated even for a second, you need to call us. Ezra Group's AI governance audit was built specifically for wealth management firms who are adopting AI fast, but haven't yet caught up with the oversight side, which, frankly, is most firms are running into. We'll come in, map your entire AI footprint, identify your regulatory exposure, and hand you a governance framework your compliance team will actually love. Firms to get ahead of this now won't be scrambling when the SEC starts asking questions, and believe me, they will. So go to ezragroup.com, hit the big purple Contact Us button on the homepage, and schedule your free consultation today. All right, my standard housekeeping chores. Please subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to check out our sponsor, the Invest in Others Charitable Foundation at investinothers.org. And if you're a software vendor in the wealth management space, please make sure to register your product at our Wealth Tech Integration Score vendor portal, ezragroup.com/register, so that your integration score is always up to date. And now, let's kick this thing off.
All right, here we go with our next guest. I'm excited to introduce Bob Pisani, CTO of Addepar. Hey, Bob, good to see you again.
Hey, Craig, great to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
Happy to. It's been a while. I think we were together last year in Napa.
That's right. In Napa, we had our RIA summit where we brought together a lot of our clients, and you were very gracious to be a guest on one of our panels.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for graciously inviting me. I appreciate it. I'm happy to help you guys out. So now we've got a lot to talk about, but I just wanted to quickly touch base that you just came back from a trip. You want to talk like 2 seconds about your trip overseas?
Yeah, just spent last week visiting Hong Kong and Singapore. Addepar officially opened its new office in Singapore, which is going to be our APAC hub for not only clients and sales, but also for R&D. So as part of our Series G fundraise last year, EDB, which is part of the Singaporean government, invested in Addepar, and we met up with them. We met up with many clients and banks and just had a fantastic time meeting with them, spent time at the FT Wealth Management Summit there, spoke on a panel. So it was a whirlwind tour of Singapore in less than 5 days.
That's awesome. I'm jealous. I was supposed to go last year and I had to cancel it. I'm trying to reschedule my trip to Hong Kong and Singapore. But your Series G round, since you brought it up, $230 million at a $3 billion valuation. That's huge.
Yeah, it is huge, and it's I think it's indicative of what's to come for Addepar. You know, we continue to invest a lot in what we do here. We invest over 150 million in R&D every year. That keeps going up, which is good for me.
Of course.
A lot of it is certainly around platform expansion. We serve so many different segments here at Addepar globally, clients in 60 countries, 1,400 of them, and ultimately now over almost 9 trillion in assets on the platform. And we're just growing like crazy. And the investment, of course, is around platform, but also now increasingly around AI and how to really add that to what our clients already use and love today and trust us with. But it's just more and more, and frankly, the Series G was great to have new investors like EDBI from Singapore, as well as from Vitruvian in Europe.
Indeed, it's always good to have investors you trust and respect, and have capabilities to help you in different areas.
Yep.
Right. Cool. Right. So let's get started. For anyone who doesn't know, how about a 30-second elevator pitch for Addepar?
Sure. So Addepar is a data and AI platform that's trusted by financial professionals globally. Addepar has been in business for more than 15 years and ultimately serves the investment ecosystem across family offices, advisors, RIAs, as well as institutions and enterprises. So we serve everything from private banks all the way on down. And we provide lots of life cycle management around client reporting, analytics, performance, as well as trading, data analysis, and ultimately increasingly things around AI, of course, but also have a lot of great investments around investor intelligence, investment analytics, and ultimately decision making, particularly in terms of both public and private assets.
I like how you threw an AI company in there. Everyone's now an AI company.
You have to be, actually. It's demanded by the market because
Mm.
if you're not an AI company, the assumption is that they're going to need AI to work with your platform increasingly on the go
Mhm.
forward. So we have been using AI heavily probably since 2024. Prior to that, we were using machine learning and in exploring the early days of LLMs, but probably in 2024 we started in earnest. And we continue to use machine learning and classical techniques, but now, really last year's and really for the prior 2 years, we've been investing a lot across document management and alt data processing, as well as a lot of things around data ingestion and just bringing data from hundreds and hundreds of custodial banks, but also increasingly now in terms of the client experience, which is in app, as well as I think in the future, very, very much something that we want to drive through workflows and agents and everything that everyone else wants and demands now from their partners. And so we're no different.
They're demanding it. Clients are demanding it, right? They're demanding
They
all their
are.
vendors provide something along AI.
Yeah. And it's because they feel the pressure from their clients, they feel the pressure from their investors. They know that they have to find a way to dramatically increase their operating leverage. That's always been Adepar's pitch, if you will, which is we want to help a business, a client, deliver greater operating leverage, greater efficiency so they can stop doing the the work that happens across back office, middle office, front office, and really focus on clients, either growing their businesses, acquiring new clients, servicing them better. And now the expectation is that with AI, we'll automate a lot of that away. A lot of it will go to agents and be taken off their plate so that they can focus on the highest value activities, which have always centered around client engagement, investment decision making, portfolio allocation, construction, and the like. And so that's our direction of travel, is to really bring those workflows into an automated place on the Addepar platform so we can leverage our massive data footprint to accelerate their work and create even more leverage, which is what they've always wanted from us, but now they're expecting it in even probably an order of magnitude greater.
And that's what people don't realize is they don't realize how much an order of magnitude greater really is. That's a
Yes.
tremendous. It's not doubling, right? It's 10x.
No. No, they expect that they're going to basically not have to, the way it kind of is portrayed in the headlines, and a lot of it is increasingly becoming true, is that on one hand you should say, well, now I don't need to hire all these people.
Mhm.
On the negative connotation is now you can reduce your head count. Like we're more interested in getting more efficiency out of existing people. However, the expectation is, to your point about order of magnitude, how do I frankly handle 10 times the amount of clients? How do I get
Mhm.
more 10 times the amount of work done? How do I basically synthesize information across 10, 20, 50 different data sources and systems that today requires hours upon hours of work and have it done in minutes or seconds?
Mhm.
That's the expectation increasingly, so that now they can do types of work or an amount of work that they never could do before. And
Mhm.
that's what's different when I think about AI versus prior technological innovations or transformations. AI will actually unlock new things versus improving what's already there. Yes, you will get that, but I think the more exciting aspect of AI is what you'll be able to do that you couldn't do otherwise.
It's almost every day we're coming up with new things we couldn't do before, and it's hard to even keep up. So something you just recently announced, speaking of an AI company, is a new AI product called Addison, which
Yes.
makes sense for Addepar, Addison, which is your what you're calling a native AI experience.
Yep.
So you've made it clear. You've spoken in other forums. We looked at some of your other interviews that you feel it's a big mistake that firms are making when they're bolting AI onto a data environment. So how did you make sure that Addison itself didn't fall into that trap when you were
Yeah.
building it? And what architectural decisions did you make to keep it grounded in the data layer rather than sitting on top of it?
Yeah. So the starting a few years ago, the big rush was, well, we'll just outsource everything to ChatGPT. We'll just copy and paste data and we'll just start asking questions. It lacks many things when you do that. So when we chose to we made an acquisition of an AI company called Arcus in 2025. We took that AI capability and that platform and we built it into our platform very deeply. And when we did that, we gained all the benefits of our existing data infrastructure, governance, security, as well as access that otherwise wouldn't be possible as a bolt-on. Bolt-on has very little control. There's very little oversight and governance, very little auditability about what's going on. And our clients have always demanded that of us, and we've delivered it. And we do the same now with AI. So when you use Addison, you're able to access all parts of the Addepar platform. You're able to synthesize data from across your entire portfolio, but it is doing so as part of a governed enterprise grade platform experience where you get all the attribution, all the auditability. You can click through and see all the underlying data that was used, so you can ensure that AI didn't synthesize data or, frankly, invent data through hallucination. And you also get all the integration benefits of being part of a broader platform experience. You get that ecosystem benefit. And so that's what I mean by building it deeply. So we could have gotten, let's say, some sort of chat experience on the periphery out the door probably last year. But we thought very, very carefully about how do we get it out in the right way with the right level of governance security while also giving the best user experience, because we don't view Addison as the end of our AI journey. It's really the beginning, because now Addison is this ecosystem play where we're going to start now to deliver agents and then persona-based agents so they do different jobs for you, as well as workflows that now are native to the Addepar platform that can orchestrate things within Addepar as well as outside of Addepar. And increasingly, AI native experiences that are part of that infrastructure that run on the Addepar platform and are not being, I'll call it broadly, outsourced to another provider. Again, there's nothing wrong with the foundational model providers or other AI companies, but you make a lot of assumptions and you bear a lot of risk if you're kind of handing that off and you're not making that a deep investment and a deep intentional architectural choice to embed it deeply.
Yeah, and that's the question I wanted to get at. So, what were the specific architectural decisions that you made
Mm.
around building Addison? Because you had to build it pretty quickly, right? You went from zero to a live product in almost no time.
We did, and so we had made an investment many years ago in Databricks. So our underlying architecture, we revamped the whole data infrastructure starting in 2022. And I'm not going to be so coy as to say, well, we knew AI was coming, so that's why we did it. But the reality is that we invested a lot in our data infrastructure, and that helped a lot. And ultimately, it allowed us to very quickly say, well, our data infrastructure is the foundation of everything at Addepar, all of our products, the rest of our entire capabilities and infrastructure. So by having AI at that level, meaning that it sits at the foundation level. So you can think of it as the data platform underpins our AI platform, which means our AI platform at the lowest level, sitting on top of Databricks, part of our broader service and infrastructure for the broader Addepar platform and products. It's able to tap into the same technologies, the same services and APIs, the data layer, as well as the computation layer at depth, not just, let's say, as you would, as a user would, or as a client would at the periphery. You're actually embedding it deeply so that now we have an AI platform, which of course is not trying to be a foundational model provider. It's not trying to train models. It's not trying to do any of that. We still use foundational models that are hosted on either AWS or hosted in Databricks itself. So it's within our Addepar, call it four walls or Addepar firewall, which means we're not sending it outside of the Addepar infrastructure. But by doing that, we orchestrate how the AI works. We're ultimately combining different AI workflows and calls together. We're marrying it with our data infrastructure, with our calculation infrastructure. And by doing that at depth, we then get all the benefits of the surrounding perimeter, security, governance, and privacy. And that's really important for our enterprise clients all the way down to our family offices. And that's really critical because there are assumptions that clients have in you as a software provider that you are really great stewards of end client data. And that's critically important because if you're not, you erode trust. And even though an may give you an answer, if they can't trust that you're, frankly, doing what's right with the data, how can they trust you're doing the right thing to produce answers and provide me now this automation and this, frankly, acceleration of wisdom and knowledge that comes from using AI?
Indeed, and your clients look to your platform for the right answers to some very complex investments.
Yes. And they're doing many different workflows on the Addepar platform already.
Mhm.
The goal is that Addison and the whole AI platform within unlocks all of those to be significantly faster. But I don't think that's, as we said earlier, is the really interesting part. It's really about what could you do if you start breaking down the frictions and barriers that exist between different people in an organization, between different systems, between third parties and your own solution. And suddenly you start creating these almost virtual workflows that exist beyond boundaries. And that's super exciting because today things are often done very manually that are unintentional. We've long, I announced our last user conference this year, and we have an upcoming user conference in May. We talked a lot about the swivel chair problem, and that you don't just end up having a single vendor, you end up having lots and lots of vendors, and you want them to integrate. And the way that used to be done, well, still is via API. Great. API integrations are great, and that's really nice. However, you end up using lots and lots of different systems to do your job. And to me, this is one of the biggest unlocks we see with AI and workflow is that now you may visit all these other systems to pull some piece of information, to make an update, to start a workflow. Imagine a world where now from a single point, a single modality of either a chat or a widget or a workflow, you can make all those things happen, eliminate the swivel chair effect. And we certainly believe from within Addepar, you can now drive your work in the most, frankly, real world and comfortable way possible without having to leave your user experience. It should be very native to how you want to work. So whether it's in Addepar, if you want to email, if you want to send a message via Teams or Slack, whatever it may be, all of that should just work, and it should all be part of notifications and events and workflows. And so increasingly, Addepar is really, I would say, evolving from this system of record into now more of a system of action. And I think that's how we've been thinking about it internally, which is how do we make the actions the logical next step come to life, not just, yes, we're still the system of record, but how do we now bring that from as short amount of time and with as little effort as possible from system of record, meaning you have the data, you have the insights, to action. And that's really where we're focused for our roadmap for this year. And we're very excited to announce and show off many things at our user conference next month.
That's an interesting term to use. So it's from a system evolving from a system of record into a system of action.
Mhm.
So you mentioned breaking down barriers with virtual workflows across the infrastructure. And you also talked about agentic workflows as being the next step. So can you talk about some of the agents that Addepar is building? Do you consider Addison to be an agent, or is Addison the orchestration layer for agents? And how will your clients be working by the end of the year versus how they worked last year?
Oh yeah, that's what's so interesting. And Addison, I would not say is in and of itself an agent. It's probably the AI platform and orchestration layer that is going to be the foundation for everything else here at Addepar. We personify it like everybody else because at some point it's easier to say, well, I'm going to go ask Addison or talk to
Mhm.
Addison. It's easy to kind of understand it that way. However,
Sure.
when we talk about agents will be reachable and executable within Addison. So the first agent we're going to be releasing this quarter is in beta will be an operations agent. So today there are many operations functions and back office functions that exist within our clients, which do lots of work on a daily basis about updating reports, checking for issues in terms of cost basis. They may find an issue with a calculation for performance that's wrong. there may be a corporate action problem, there may be all these things that are occurring. And while you can correct all these things and address all of them in Addepar, today it may require running a report. And you look at the data and say, oh, I wonder what's wrong. You have to run another report. Say, okay, well, let me look at the transaction. So, okay, well, now you run that. And next thing you know, you're doing several steps to make that happen. The agent can now do all that for you. And then at the end, the agent will then say, oh, and I found these 5 fixes if you'd like me to apply them. Yes or no? And you can say yes, and it'll do it, and you're done. Further, we're going to drive all of that. When we say agentic workflows, we don't mean that we're just asking the agent to go sort of invent a workflow on the fly and figure out how to do everything. It's a combination of, I'll call it classical workflow, which is steps, and there are connections between the steps, and it's typical, almost like a box and line metaphor of there are sequences, but also having agents both create them, agents in start off workflows and kick them off, as well as participate in workflows as a step. So in that case, the same way that Addison, you could, through Addison, ask an agent to go verify this account or see what's wrong with this cost basis on this particular portfolio. You could also have a workflow that runs every day that does the same thing and just ask Addison to verify if there are any cost basis issues or if there are any corporate action problems, and that participates in a workflow. You could also say to Addison, well, you know what, from now on, every morning before I log in, please go look for any issues today and run that. That's just one agent. We're also working on other agents which are more geared towards both back office as well as front office, and having this idea of client intelligence or client engagement agents, having an investor assistant, which can help you answer questions about portfolio allocations and benchmarking, and can help with construction or allocation models. And so it's so interesting when you start to think through the lens of a particular person inside of a company. You suddenly start to see all the opportunity where agents can help. And so we want to be flexible. And so we'll start off with providing these workflows and these agents out of the box. But we very quickly see a world, but let's say by the end of the year, where you're able to customize those agents. And very much like everyone can do now with any number of different AI tools, you can either prompt around it, you can provide instructions, or you could even say, well, you know what, take this agent, I want to build my own agent. There's no reason you should be limited in what you can do with AI that today is generic. But even though you're within the Addepar platform, you want all those benefits now. So we're going to replicate those same capabilities, but now within the Addepar platform. So suddenly you get the ecosystem benefits, and the knowledge that comes with being part of that infrastructure, but you're not losing any of the capabilities that are today just off the shelf from a lot of AI providers.
We certainly wouldn't want to lose capabilities if we're moving to a different
Correct.
platform, right? Or our vendor shouldn't be taking things away. The question is, with everyone pushing AI features, with every one of your clients has access to all the same underlying foundational models as well, where should they be living and where should they be operating? Where should they be building their agents? Should they have a separate agent layer separate from all their vendors, or should they dive in and make a commitment to one vendor like Addepar?
So obviously the easy answer is, well, you should obviously do an Addepar. The harder answer is more, well, opinionated and nuanced, because the truth of it is, while you could probably do it both ways, you could say, hey, you know what, I'm going to own this and I'm going to make that happen, or I'm going to let my vendor do this for me. I think there's a path to success for each. I just think they're very different, and I think they're also different costs and different burdens and different types of complexity. To your point, you'd have the most control if you do it yourself. This is no different if we remove AI and agents. This is no different than saying I'm going to build my own software. All right. The cost of building software is effectively going to zero. There's still a cost to maintain it. There's still a cost to deal with bugs and issues every day. Yes, you could have AI and agents help you do that part. You could use an off-the-shelf agentic infrastructure and orchestrate all these different systems. The question is, do you think, and the bet is what our bet is, that do you think by having it deeply integrated, like we said, it solves a lot of the regulatory risk, compliance, governance, and privacy concerns? That's one. Two, having someone still own the maintenance and innovation and improvement that comes along with it. Because once you build something, now you have something.
Mm.
And sometimes once you have something, it can go from being an asset to a liability. And now you need to maintain this thing. And by the way, whether you're doing it or we're doing it, somebody is doing it. So the question is, who owns that? Who owns the downside risk of keeping up with all the changes that will occur with agents, frankly, over the next 6 to 12 months? We've seen it already. We've had entire investments in infrastructure that we built ourselves be completely made obsolete with a single release by one of the AI vendors. And so
Can
you
you give me
now
an
have that
example of that?
problem. Yeah, so we spent a bunch of time last year building short-term memory into the AI layer of Addison. And we spent so much as it didn't exist at the time. This was, I don't remember when, in 2025. And then suddenly, I can't remember if it was Anthropic or Gemini or one of the model vendors came out
I
with
think
it.
I think
And then I got
OpenAI
adopted
came
by
out
it.
with it first.
What's that?
I think OpenAI came out with memory
Yeah, so
first.
I think they came out with it first, and suddenly like, oh,
Hmm.
so you mean all that work we did, all that effort, which by the way made sense in the moment,
Hmm.
was made completely obsolete.
Yeah.
That keeps happening. So it's a question
Yeah.
of, all right, what do you invest in and whose problem do you make that?
Mhm.
So again, short answer is let Addepar do it. The long answer is weigh your options
Yeah.
because we've always been open architecture. If you want to use our APIs and you want to build something, you can. We think that that adds to the swivel chair problem. So we're trying to eliminate the swivel chair problem.
Mhm.
So I think what I would say to a client is you can have one or the other. We're going to invest in workflow. We're investing in agents. So you can use our platform as your foundation. So we own some of that liability. Or you can use our APIs and you can do it yourself.
Mhm.
So there are different cost profiles, if you will. There's different opportunity cost profiles. So I think it's a choice that a client needs to think through carefully. And also, even if you decide to do it, you then need to have at least one or more people who understand AI, LLMs, and these agentic infrastructures pretty deeply.
Mhm.
So you have to at least have that person, and then you have key person risk, everything else that everybody else has when you're building software, but now it just gets magnified. So
Mhm.
it's totally doable. I think it's far more viable than it probably was, let's say, 2 years ago when you were just going to build my own infrastructure off of APIs.
Mhm.
It's far more viable, and maybe in the future it'll be even bulletproof. Right now, I'm more concerned about just trying to eliminate frictions between data and systems and personas within a client. And if they so choose to benefit from that directly or indirectly, I'm happy for them.
So on one thing, I get asked that question a lot as well. We talk to wealth management firms every almost every day, and a
Yep.
very common question is, why don't we build it ourselves?
Mm,
We do a lot of vendor evaluations and RFPs, and my answer, again, I'm not here to sell Addepar software or anybody's software, but one thing you mentioned, you covered all the points that I make, which is the cost of software, the building of the software, even now that it's almost free, has never been more than 10%, in my
yeah.
opinion, of the total cost of maintaining that software. As you mentioned, bug fixes, more features, expansion, integrations, all those capabilities. No one realizes that goes on forever, and now you own it. But what they're also missing by not working with a vendor like Addepar or any of your competitors is your software encapsulates best practices gathered from 1,400 other firms, right? And if I'm building it myself, I'm not getting any of that.
And so it's what you do, what you feel is if you feel strongly that you can do something that is highly differentiated, do it.
Mhm.
And so you'll see this. I often see this more on a front office side. Like there may be some aspect of investment evaluation, decision making. It often ends up in a spreadsheet a lot of
Yep.
times, and that's fine. I would prefer that we institutionalize that in a different way and we codify it so it's not as fragile. However, I do think that there's an argument to be made always in any size for differentiation. What ends up happening is you end up building a lot of plumbing and foundational things that are themselves, to your point, already fully vetted and hardened after years, because that's what Addepar is doing. We're not rebuilding Addepar from the ground up. We're taking the investment of more than 15 years in a global custody feed network, a global hardened market data integration, a scalable computation platform, which by the way, I wouldn't let AI calculate things. You need to have someone else calculate things when it comes to the types of investment frankly, analytics and decision making you're basing this on. So if you do it yourself, all right, Addepar can do that for you. It's then question of what are you going to do that's differentiated that Addepar isn't either doing for you or couldn't do on Addepar that you would do yourself. Now, to your point about I have 10 vendors. Absolutely. I would say the evolution has been, well, I need a data warehouse.
Hmm.
Okay. So that was where it started. Then it became, now I need a data lakehouse and I just need a data share. Now it's, well, I'll use AI and I'll build my own solutions. To me, it's all part of the same curve, which is it's getting easier to integrate things, but you still have to solve a fundamental issue, which we talk a lot about with our clients, which is how do you handle distribution? Now that you build your own thing, you need to get it in front of your advisors, your investment managers, decision makers, asset managers, and or clients. How do you distribute your insights? How do you distribute your data or your functionality that you're creating? So that's something that Addepar thinks about a lot, which is distribution. You need to have a portal for clients. You need to have tooling which is purpose fit for advisors or for investment decision making and asset management. If you can't distribute all the things that you're building and the insights, that's the hard part. I think you absolutely can build something that's like, well, I built this report. And whether it was a warehouse, a lake house, or an AI tool, you ultimately built a report that synthesized data and gave you results. What do you do with them? And it's a question of if it's just for you and you're a small team, sure, that could work. Doesn't typically scale very well because now how do you get it from your machine and your laptop or whatever it may be into multiple hands of dozens, hundreds, or thousands of people? That's the other aspect of this, which is that solving that is a rather old and complex problem that's been solved many times over by firms like Addepar, but it's something that you'd be taking on by building something on your own.
We were both on the same page here, Bob. Considering our technical background, we understand software, and being in the industry for decades, we
Yeah,
know what the costs are and what you should and shouldn't be doing. But we are just about out of time. Can I just quick squeeze in one more question about the future
sure.
of AI from your seat with Addison, where it is today, and what's the single biggest technical hurdle standing between where you see Addison today and that future state you just talked about, where it's automatically reconciling, it's surfacing insights, it's coordinating execution across the front, middle, back office. How far do you think away from that?
I would say probably we're about 12 months away.
Which is
I
crazy.
I think that's 12. I honestly think the rate of adoption acceleration is so fast because we don't just get incremental improvement every time. We're seeing step function change and almost exponential growth in terms of what we can build and deliver. We've said internally to ourselves that as a software company, we've been using agentic coding tools now since probably well over a year and a half. By the end of this year, I don't think we'll be writing any code by hand within Addepar. It'll
None,
all be
zero.
done with agents. And then I think by next year, we'll have enough agents, enough workflow, and enough integrations that we'll be able to give a completely different experience to the, call it, new Addepar user versus the existing Addepar user. A lot of our existing Addepar users know how to use Addepar. They know all the knobs and bells and whistles. The new Addepar user coming on will be an AI first user, will be an agentic first user, such that they may never even see aspects of Addepar that exist. That to me is the fundamental shift, is where you start having an AI native experience. I think it will be increasingly a mobile experience where you'll be mobile first, and the AI will be your point of, frankly, communication and work. And that's how you take action back and forth. So I think it's a year away from that. I don't think it's a year away from that being adopted everywhere. I think it will be possible in a year, but I think it'll be a long road to adoption.
Well, Bob, you said it all. I really appreciate you being here. Where can people find out more information about Addepar?
Well, certainly, you can follow us on Addepar.com. We are pretty active on LinkedIn as well as X, so you can follow us there. And ultimately, we are always going and running client events. We're always running different meetups, and we're at industry conferences and all the rest. So you will definitely find us pretty much anywhere you go.
And hopefully, I'll run into each other somewhere before the end of the year at some event.
Yeah, same here, Craig. I look forward to meeting up in person again.
Great. Thanks, Bob.
All right, thank you, Craig. Take care.
It's Craig again. Here are my top 3 takeaways from this episode. Number 1, Addepar's Addison is a deeply integrated AI platform, not a bolt-on. Bob emphasized that Addepar built their AI into the foundation of their data infrastructure, which is built on Databricks, rather than bolting it on top. This ensures governance, security, auditability, and prevents hallucinations, which is critical for enterprise clients who are managing trillions in assets. Number 2, AI unlocks new capabilities, not just efficiency gains. The real value of AI isn't from reducing headcount. It's enabling teams to handle 10x the work, synthesize data from dozens of sources, and eliminate the awkward swivel chair problem of jumping between systems. This will shift Addepar, in Bob's opinion, from a system of record to a system of action. And 3, agents and agentic workflows are coming on fast. Addepar is rolling out specialized agents that can automate complex tasks in areas like operations, investor assistance, and client intelligence. And by the end of 2026, new users will have an AI-first experience, potentially never even seeing their traditional UI elements. All right, congratulations. You reached the end of another episode of the Wealth Tech Today podcast. But before you go, please head to our website, ezragroup.com, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, receive an email chock full of wealth management goodness, news, information, and updates. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.